The Joe Rogan Experience.
I met Adrian Carmack at a bar in Texas, which was fucking awesome. And it was funny because he started telling me, like, well, if you guys are going to make it, you know, we were in production on Doom Eternal. He's like, if you guys are going to make a Doom game, here's what we thought when we made Doom. And everything he listed, we were all like, that's what we think. You know, like, he's like, we just did stuff that made us laugh and made us smile. I'm like, that's what we say. You know, like, it was cool. He was super nice. So to me, id Software is kind of like Disney. Like, they invented a genre, and we are part of the new generation there, and we have a legacy to live up to. Like, yeah, it's a really special place to work. A tremendous amount of I don't want to say pressure, but we're all motivated.
Yeah, well, it's you know, you're working at the highest spot. That's like if you go. I mean, if you think about, like, it's like if it's rap, you're at Death Row Records. You know what I mean? You're like at the highest spot.
And the coolest thing is, like, the type of games that they have always made. Just they are able to get away with things that a lot of mainstream AAA games struggle with, just because of how violent it is. I mean, they are like, again, it's Evil Dead 3 with a Transformers budget. Like, who the fuck gets to make that? Like,
right.
You know, like the shit you see, we spend a shitload of time making that stuff.
Oh, I
like,
can only imagine.
Whereas, like, in a lot of situations I've been in, it's like, yeah, we want to cut this dude in half. It's like, oh, we don't have a lot of money for that, dude, so do it pretty fast. You know, like, we're like, there are artists, like craftsmen, you know, working on the entrails. Like, this looks pretty good. And literally the notes are like, I need, like, the intestine to kind of, like, flap a little when you get the thing off, you know, like, and it's... How
do you know if you've crossed the line? Has there ever been a time when you had a scene and people, like, dial that back? We actually, tonally... You know, you say, how do you start the project? It's kind of like there's a fair amount of brainstorming, and the strength of any creative team is at least for a game, is how you brainstorm with each other. It's the synergy in that room has to be good. You got to be selfless. You got to show up. You got to be willing to support other ideas, other people's ideas as much as your own. We have a fucking amazing group in that regard. But tonally, we try to establish that like, look, guys, we're not making Saw, we're not making Hostile, it's not malicious, it's not meant to make you cringe. And we actually cut together a little video of, like, what we thought violence-wise was inappropriate and tonally felt off. And then we made another video of what felt right, and that was Evil Dead 2 with, like, it's not a slow trickle of blood out of a sliced open wrist. It is some dude's head came off and Hawaiian Punch just starts fucking shooting out of his head, you know, like, that's really what it is. Like, it's cartoonish, you know. Cartoonish violence.
It goes so far that because the thing is, you do this so much, so often. I mean, you are murdering demons per minute. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's fucking crazy. If it was off-putting and realistic and kind of like, ooh, you'd be so turned off. It'd be sick. Like, you'd make you sick after a while. But so
that's a weird way of looking at it. I don't think you're right. What you're doing is, like, super gory and disgusting. You think somehow or another that will make you less sick? Well, that it was more realistic and less bloody?
Oh, for sure. I mean,
what?
Tonally, we could twist that where every one of those is mean-spirited and really off-putting, for sure. I mean,
okay, I don't want you to sell me some PR stuff to sort of defend your game against people that are anti-violence, because that's what it sounds like. What you're doing is super bloody and disgusting and violent. To say that somehow or another that is less off-putting than less gory is that's a ridiculous argument. I don't want you using it here or anywhere else.
Well, it's Joseph. It is not. This is no PR. This is legit.
It sounds like you've been coached.
No. Like, this is my message to the team. I mean, sincerely, like...
Okay, you're coaching them.
Well, because they make the content. So,
right.
Like, think of this. All right, I like this, because this is the fucking truth. So, you look at Saw. You look at torture porn, horror movies. They're cutting Achilles tendons with a fucking X-Acto knife, and the dude is screaming in pain. And he's a person. Like... This is gnarly shit. He doesn't look like he's having a good time. Like, versus on Evil Dead 2, when you lop off the head of that one grandma creature that comes up out of the basement, and, like, fucking buckets of blood start coming out of her head.
Right. It's cartoonish.
Cartoonish. So, like,
yeah.
It's critical. Zero PR spin. That is, we have to believe that, because, look, your design story is going to be exposed to the consumer in 2 fucking seconds. Like, they can see through your bullshit in 5 seconds. If they're like, dude, you're trying to sell... No, like... So we have to have an honest, good design story that we can stand behind that is true. And that is the truth. I mean, we basically looked at, like, cartoons and, like, make it over the top. The animation... So every time... Here's a perfect example. Every time you murder a cacodemon, which is those flying balls, you pull out their eyeball.
What is it called? A caca?
A cacodemon.
Caca? What's the spell it?
C-A-C C-A-C-O. Oh, C-A-C-O.
Don't you have kids? You have kids, right?
I do. I have 3 kids.
It's caca. You're saying caca demon. It's a poo-poo demon.
Sure. So every time you pull out his eyeball, you literally hear like a, I can't do it, but
sound,
like a funny cartoony sound, and that is absolutely intentional to take the edge off what you're doing. Because if it was more gruesome, and it's The Exorcist versus Evil Dead 2. Those are tonally 2 completely different movies. You know, House was a movie that came out in the 80s that was inspired by Evil Dead. That's like a fucking comedy. I mean, it is a comedy, and it's a horror comedy, versus The Exorcist, which is fucking amazing, but really very serious, you know? And that's how we're able to do what we do.
Okay, stop selling it. Stop selling the violence thing. I get it. I see what you're saying. What is this, a cacodemon?
Yeah. That's a cacodemon.
It's caca. That's poo-poo. It looks like poop. It's like if you had a demon shit, that's what it would look like. Like, oh no, tearing you up on the way out. What is that, an original one?
That is the original cacodemon.
From the original Doom?
Yes.
Oh, cool. So it's an updated version of that, but, you know, just more graphically intense.
Yes.